the jealous teen who killed her pretty neighbor to steal her identity.
Neil sat in front of us and he said there's no other way of saying this. Rachel's been murdered.
This 15-year-old girl was strangled to death by her jealous babysitter who tried to steal her identity. Rachel Barber was pretty, talented, and popular. All the things that Caroline Reed Robertson wanted to be. Robertson became so jealous of the teen that she carefully planned a way to kill Rachel and take over her life.
Some people might change their behaviour, their appearance, their job, their lifestyle, so they can be like their role model, but to actually want to kill the role model and replace them, I mean, that's going really a long way.
Barber was a teenager from Melbourne, Australia. Shortly before her death in March of 1999, she had been accepted into dance school and was pursuing her dream of becoming a professional dancer. Her former babysitter, Caroline, was Rachel's neighbor. She regularly wrote about Rachel's good looks in her diary, whilst drawing unflattering pictures of herself tagged with cruel names like Pizza Face. It wasn't long after the two met that Caroline began to fantasize about becoming Rachel, spending her free time spying on her.
Rachel would have been spied on quite a few times because she was keeping an eye on Rachel a lot.
Caroline's diary was filled with entries talking about Rachel.
Rachel is strikingly attractive. Dancer's body, very clear, pale skin, hypnotic green eyes, wild, free spirit, passionate, charming.
As well as spying, Caroline had been taking photos of her. She once convinced her to pose for pictures for a fake school project. Caroline stuck the photos on her wall, creating a shrine to Rachel.
I mean, that's scary that, you know, she had photos of all of us girls all over her walls. I mean, that's crazy.
After 5 years of obsession, Caroline put her plan into action. She lured Rachel to her home, saying how she could earn $100 for taking part in a psychological study after class. Once Barbara arrived, her killer wrapped a telephone cord around her neck and strangled her to death. Robertson then shoved the girl's body into a wardrobe where it stayed for several days before wrapping it in rugs and stuffing it into an army bag. Caroline then took the body in a taxi to her father's property where she buried it in the family's pet cemetery alongside the Robertsons' dead animals.
I just had that gut feeling because it wasn't Rachel. Rachel wasn't someone to just disappear.
Rachel was missing for 10 days as police attempted to retrace her steps on the day of her disappearance. Eventually, a witness came forward who had seen Barbara on the tram with a plain-looking woman.
Very cruelly so. Michael actually believed that she was alive. And he thought for whatever reason it's happened, whatever reason, Rachel was with Caroline.
Police went to the 19-year-old's apartment shortly after, where she was found unconscious on the floor. She had suffered an epileptic fit, probably brought on by the stress of the murder. After Caroline woke up in hospital, police questioned her.
I asked her where Rachel was, and she responded to me that Rachel was dead. And that surprised me. And I said, you know, are you sure she's dead? And she said, yes, I've buried her.
She admitted to burying Rachel's body in the family pet cemetery. The body was soon found, along with the evidence of Caroline's plan. The killer had made notes on how she had planned to steal the teen's identity in her journal. Police also found an application for a birth certificate in Rachel's name and another for a $10,000 bank loan. It was clear that Robertson had been planning to relocate, assuming Rachel's identity and living her life as her victim.
She was thinking about this for a couple of years, or even if she wasn't thinking about it, it was in her subconscious.
Police found evidence that Caroline had been planning the murder for 5 years. She knew she wanted to become Rachel from the day the two girls met.
There is evidence of planning. Caroline clearly planned this out. This was a premeditated murder.
Robertson was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 20 years. The teen killer spent 15 years behind bars before being released on parole in 2015.
Just moments ago, Caroline Reed Robertson was wearing a dark-coloured baseball cap, and she was picked up by two friends who drove her away to begin her life of freedom.
Family had expressed concerns over the killer being able to walk free. She was diagnosed with a personality disorder after her arrest, and her parents fear that she may still pose a threat to society. The killer never expressed much remorse for her crimes and was remarkably matter-of-fact about what she had done.
Caroline's very cold, very matter-of-fact, but just very cold. There's no emotion there whatsoever.
Caroline Reed Robertson has not been in any trouble since her release, but many argue that the punishment was not severe despite her age at the time of the killing. Despite their frustration over Caroline's release, Rachel's family members say they find comfort in the fact that their daughter's life was enviable when it was taken.
When Rachel was murdered, her life couldn't have been better. And she was at a point where she totally believed in herself. She was doing her dancing and everything was going to be right for her.
Fortunately, it is also the reason why this case of cold-blooded murder is particularly tragic. Thanks for watching this episode of Crime 101. Be sure to subscribe for more.